Yes. Remember, we do this for freedom.
You can ask.
What in damnation have you done?
You've destroyed him, and yet I hear the voice of innocence, begging for our forgiveness, asking for our help. You and I. I heard him the moment the High Templar fell, whispering inside my damn skull, his heart beating within my chest. Innocence protects us now, holds fast the door against the murderous tide that rushes to meet us. He wants you to pass through that door, to bring order to the chaos beyond. I don't understand any of this. Moments ago, I was just a soldier obeying his High Templar, Bannon the Nobody. Now, my God lays inside my head, telling me to let you through that door and to make my way to Overseer's Tower, if it still stands. It does? All right. I don't know what's waiting for you out there, but should you survive it, I'll see you at Overseer's Tower. You've destroyed him, and yet I hear the voice of him.
Someone's redecorated. I like it.
Little rocks, just for me. Pretty little rocks, just for me. Little rocks just for me.
this chaos should have been of my making.
Remember, We do this for freedom.
We're glad you made it. No, damn it all, that's just too strange to abide. I'm glad you made it. And innocence tells me I need to keep helping you. So that's what I'm going to do. I know my way around weapons and armor, and all things Templar if you should want for further enlightenment on that subject. As for innocence, I don't know. Sometimes he makes sense, other times he's a shattered god, but he'll heal. I'll make sure of that. Lani's told me a little about Utula and his cult of Kitava. Enough to know what Utula's got planned. Bring about the fall of one god so he can raise up one of his own. And this Kitava, from what fragments I can piece together from innocence, he's not the benevolent kind. Please, find Utula and stop him. I'm not saying this because I want to put innocence back on his divine throne. I'm saying this because Oriath is my home. It's made some mistakes, but it doesn't deserve the fate that Utula has in mind. I'm having a little trouble explaining it myself. I've never been the most devout of men, especially for a Templar, more of a soldier than a believer. But now, innocence himself rests within me. His voice is weak, barely a whisper, yet still he has the power to keep us safe from Kitava's hunger. At least for now. For my part, I'm simply grateful. Grateful that I have a god watching my back, and grateful that he's given me the power to watch others in return. For a long time now, I thought my god's intentions were being twisted by his supposed servants. Did I speak up? No. The pyre would have been my only answer. I did what I was told and drew the lines of morality where I could. Now I understand the truth. It wasn't Innocence's intention being twisted. It was Innocence himself, perverted by the selfish convictions of the men and women who worshipped him. A god answers to the believer, as the believer answers to their god. A sign of purity. Let's see. A staff, bathed in innocent blood. No. Sorry, bathed in the blood of innocence. Yes, Innocence gave a part of his divine self to the thing, and gifted it to the Templar. Now that I recall, I read a tome about it when I was a cadet. Bloody long time ago. I skipped most of the boring pages, so only remember the bit where High Templar Maxarius smote with flame the army of the faithless with one ray of its hallowing light. The book's words, not mine. Outside of my humble flesh, the sign of purity is about all that's left of innocence. Devotion should be honored, I suppose. For centuries now, the Templar have boiled the flesh and skin from the devout and presented the polished remains for public appreciation in the ossuary. Personally, I think it's one of the better ways to remember those who have gone before us. To touch the bones is to remember neither the legend, the legacy, nor the lies. It reminds you that those bones belonged to a man or woman who was just like any other man or woman. I'd be lying if I said my hands were clean of slavery's blood. I was a soldier. I went where Dominus ordered me to go. I sailed with the expedition to Ngamakanui, killed Karui warriors, and rounded up Karui captives like every other bastard in a Templar uniform. So I don't blame Lani for wanting to take back her freedom, and I don't blame her for believing Utula's lies either. I certainly swallowed enough of Dominus's falsities to sicken my soul. It's what we do now that matters. I can see that Lani's heart is in the right place, and for once in my damned life, so is mine. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't trust her. Yeah, I've got my reasons. Piety kept her work pretty quiet, but her results were brutally clear. The people she took, the people she changed. Slaves mostly, and a few enemies of God. Enemies of bloody Dominus, more like it. I don't go in for black and white definitions of good and evil, but with piety in her ilk, I make an exception. Whatever's lurking inside Violenta, it ain't good. Not by a long shot. Don't ever give up.
Yes,
that a god now lives inside his head and talks to him. What's more common, divine possession or insanity? I'll leave you to calculate the odds. Now, where was I?
Greetings. Bannon is unexpected. At least, he's not the sort of Templar that I'm used to dealing with. His ideas about innocence almost make sense to me. The way he worships innocence and receives such power in return, it's like his devotion actually brings out the best in his god. But how is that possible? A god is a god. They bless us and they punish us, not the other way around. Yet for Bannon, somehow it's different. The King's Feast is an ancient ritual born of less enlightened times. Long before the Karui followed the way, one tribe would conquer another and a feast would be prepared for the triumphant king. The main dishes of this feast were selected carefully for the sweetness of their nature and the tenderness of their flesh. You see, when the conquered fills the belly of the conqueror, two tribes become one. And that's what's happening out there in Theopolis right now. The tribe of Kitava is feeding upon the tribe of Oriath, and the feast won't end until two tribes become one. Remember what Utula said about Kitava? He is the tormented one, destined to rise up from the darkness, and we, his children, rise with him. It was there all along, in eyes too bright and smiles too wide. Cunning concealed by kindness. Conquest wearing the mask of freedom. I didn't see it because I was looking for something else. Hope. The cult only wanted what it's always wanted. To be born again in their father's image. They are Kitava's children, the first of his tribe. Unless you do something about it, they won't be the last. Remember, we do this for freedom.
savior? Oh no, it has only begun.
Aureus was mine to burn. You took that from me. Now you will join the pyre.
Priest is dead, yet the object of his devotion remains. There's no doubt you did all right bringing that man-turned-monster to heel, but you weren't able to stop him fishing his master out of a river of blood. Damn. Sorry. I never could get the hang of boosting morale. Didn't seem right to polish the edges off harsh facts. Probably why I never made captain. Still, I've been poking around here for a bit and have turned up Utula's stash. Quite the magpie he was. So here, help yourself. When it comes to hunting a god, I suppose every little bit helps. Good luck out there. I'm here to serve. Don't ever give up.
Yes? You've sent the traitor to meet his ancestors, have you? That'll be an interesting conversation. I'm no Hatungo, but I can foresee Utula walking a long road of trial and suffering before he earns himself a place at the ancestors' table. And just as Utula's journey continues, so does yours, right into the jaws of Kitava. I don't profess to understand the mind of a god, but I know the stories. Kitava is patient. He waited in the darkest pit of Hinekore's realm. He will bide his time while his hunger spreads like the plague it is, and when his tribe is replenished 100 times over, Kitava will rise one final time to finish the feast that he has started. Oriath is merely the appetizer. There's a whole world out there for Kitava to taste. You've proved that you're a hero who can slay legends. Let's see if you can kill a god. For freedom.
You can ask.
I'm here to serve as best I can.
Daughter of the Moon, was preparing for a feast to celebrate Tukohama's return from his war on the first ones of the Ezamites. Tafor, son of the forest, asked each of the birds to sacrifice one of their kind for the feast. He gave these offerings to Arohongui, who cooked them in a great fire-stone pit. Seeing all of those plump birds cooking made Kitava very hungry, and he offered to watch them, to make sure they didn't burn while Arohongui rested during the heat of the day. Arohongui thanked Kitava for his kindness, but while she slept, Kitava ate the cooking birds, flesh, bones, gizzards and all. Upon waking, Arohongui was furious to find that Kitava had lied to her, for saying that he would watch the birds when he truly intended to eat them all up. When Tukohama arrived home in his mighty canoe, Arohongui asked him to punish Kitava for his selfish gluttony. Tukohama, our father of war, agreed and pulled the sharpest tooth from his own mouth. He then asked Arohongui and Tafor to hold Kitava fast while he cut Kitava's face with the tooth. 2 slashes that blinded Kitava and formed a bleeding cross upon his face. From that day forth, Kitava would never be able to promise to watch that which he truly intended to consume. ate the feast of birds that Kitava had greedily consumed, Tukohama, our father of war, and Valakor, father of storm, went fishing. Although Kitava was blind, he could still cast his line and feel when a fish took his baits. So, Tukohama and Valakor took him with them on Tukohama's mighty canoe. But while they fished, Kitava grew hungry and secretly ate all of their bait of grubs and worms. Disgusted and angry, Tukohama and Valakor decided to use Kitava as bait instead. Valakor used his own jawbone as a hook, impaled Kitava on it, and cast both into the sea. Kitava sank to the bottom of the sea, but instead of the fish eating Kitava, it was Kitava who ate all of the fish that nibbled at him, flesh, scales, guts, and all. When Tukohama and Valakor hauled a fat-bellied Kitava back up from the sea, they were even more furious and knew that Kitava must be punished one final time. Tukohama, our father of war, and Valakor, father of storm, took Kitava to Hinekora, mother of death. They asked her to kill the greedy Kitava, for surely their tribe would starve if Kitava continued to live among them. But Hinekora refused, for death would not teach Kitava the lesson he needed to learn. Instead, Hinekora beat Kitava with a whip woven of her own hair. To Kitava, each strand was a searing lash, and so he wore thousands and thousands of blistering lashes across his back, as Hinekora drove him relentlessly into the darkest corner of the underworld. There she left him to suffer, without water or food, for the rest of eternity. And there Kitava remained, in the darkness of Hinekora's night-clad island, for time beyond measure. There he suffered, waiting for the day that he could return to the world of light, to slake his scorching thirst and satiate his ravening hunger.
interesting. Innocence forgives you.
Not all slaves believe Dutula's lies. Some I know have managed to steal a ship and are soon to set sail for Namakanui. Hopefully, with these treasures on board, Valakor will bless their voyage and breathe deeply into their sails. No, I'm not going with them. I helped bring this curse down upon Oriath, so I'll help save what little there is left to save. Here, take something, in thanks for your part in preserving the Karui Way. For freedom. freedom comes to those who will.
Had I the time, I could raise an endless legion from these bones. Pity. of divinity, the more I want it.
An empire is nothing more than a standard pitched in the naked earth. The time has come for you to raise the standard upon the peak of false faith, the apex of Chitta's cathedral. Drive it deep into that sacred stone. Mark the death of a faithless empire and slay the slavering kingdom that seeks to consume it.
Hello. Remember, we do this for freedom.
Hello.
What do you need?
Greetings. Remember, we do this for freedom.
Ravenous one, let me devour your heart.
flicker, but it cannot be extinguished. There is no shame in falling to a god. Shame lies only in refusing to rise again. You shall soar. That much I'm permitted to foresee. You shall ascend to the peak of your loftiest mistake, and from there you shall pluck a single surviving hope from the jaws of immortal despair. A ship sails for Lion Eye's watch not far from here. Be on it.
I've never had to pay the price for my ambitions. Until now.
You're still alive. So is Kitava. What more do you need to know? You'll find a way. I believe it. Remember, we do this.
Kitava is a primal deity, forged from the most fundamental of human desires, hunger. The simple act of craving that which we cannot yet consume. To defeat Kitava is to squeeze the very heart of human nature into stillness. You don't think you can do that? I suppose we'll see, won't we? Now, where was I?
I don't ask this in the name of innocence. He understands now the folly his devotees have wrought upon this world. I ask in the name of Oriath. There are many that deserve what Kitava offers, and there are many more who do not. Put an end to Kitava's savage reign, for there remains much in this land that is worth saving. Don't ever give up.
I'm Captain Lily Roth, and we sail for Rayclast. Better to live in exile than die on this psychotic bonfire of an island. You want to make it out of here, you'd better get on board. But make it quick, 'cause I ain't got time for tears and regrets. Time and tide wait for no man. Good tidings to you. Remember, this ain't no charity run. You owe me. Cast off! All right, we're safe for the time being. Now let me introduce myself properly. Lily Roth. Yep, I'm one of those Roths. Some call me smuggler, others pirate. Yet I prefer the sound of nautical entrepreneur. Came up with that one myself. So you come see Lily if you need something, or even if you just fancy a good chat with a lovely lady. Don't think I'd be forgetting that favour you owe to me. In fact, now I think of it, there's certainly a way you can be repaying this most considerable debt. You see, those blasted cultists have been plundering the refugee ships trying to escape Oriath. And if not for my incomparable skill as a sea captain, we'd have met the same fate. But now the drowned dead are washing ashore, and they ain't staying dead. There's been a whole lot of blood, sweat and tears getting these few lucky survivors here in one piece. What sort of captain would I be if I let them get ripped apart by walking corpses? Wipe the Twilight Strand clean of those filthy undead bastards and I'll call us even. Might even throw in a little something extra if you can pull it off. Whalem Roth. Here, let me share something I remember from your granddaddy's stories. No sooner had the others turned in fear from the Great White Leviathan did Whalem load the ballista with his final harpoon. And right then he vowed to sea and sky that he and he alone would be the one to finally kill this bastard son of the Brine King. The ballista fired and the harpoon smote that creature right between the ribs as it made to dive back under the angry sea. Thick clouds of blood bloomed beneath the waves, roses flowering in the black water, and impossible though it seemed, the already shadowed ocean grew darker still. He used the bones of the great beast to reinforce the hull of his ship, the Black Crest. Old Rottooth, he's a true legend, a real pirate hero. I can only hope one day my own stories will reach his ears and make him proud of the granddaughter he had to leave behind. Yeah, I knew Tarkley, if you catch me drift. He's got no time for his old bunkmate these days, though. Too gaga-eyed over his lost cause of a fishwife Nessa. Time was, Tarkley and I would smuggle all about the coast of Oriath. Good days they was. Sweet with rum, nothing but the wind and salt in our faces, freedom in our hearts, and the law on our tails. But I could tell he were getting ready to make feet for children's stockings with me, so I cut him loose. Not a spark's chance under the ocean the dreaded Lily Roth's gonna wind up swelling like some drowned carcass. Still, nice to work with that bugger one more time, just for old time's sake, you know? That scallywag. I reckon Bestel thinks I'd be the kind of lass who'll bed down with any sort of rascal. Not too far off, I guess. He is rather sweet, but not the most comely of figures. Actually, he kind of reminds me of my grandfather, Waylon Roth, a poet and scoundrel extraordinaire he be. Bestel's but spittle from the mouth of old Rottooth Roth. Ahem. Bust my blind cheek, said the sailor to the doxy. She sports her dairy treats afar and relishes her moxie. But a fire ship will sink the broken neath the ocean waves. Tip nutmegs a deadly token, sends captains to their graves. Wait for no man.
Despite your best efforts, Beastslayer, a splinter of hope remains. The very seed that brought my beast into existence. The Dark Ember. Never again shall it birth a life so magnificent as the beast. Yet a residue of that power still lingers. Enough to give us a fighting chance against the ravenous Kitava. How do we obtain this Dark Ember? 3 hearts were silenced. 3 hearts must sing again, one last time. In that final flickering of life, our Savior's seed shall be born. All I need are 3 fine souls with which to stoke the flames. Chevron of Umbra, Inquisitor Maligaro, Doldre the Dark Tongue. 3 spirits of near unfathomable resilience and vigor, freed with the beast's final exhalation. So let us begin the harvest. Chevron has come home to Axiom. We shall give her the warm welcome she sincerely deserves. If she is to be of any use to us, the Umbra's spirit must be wrenched from her mortal manifestation and lashed to our greater cause. That is your task. For my part, I shall negotiate the terms of her cooperation. With a tragic kiss and lasting embrace, her essence shall pass into me as if she were a sweet breath from the mouth of my lover. It is a sacrosanct sacrifice for all involved. Thankfully for you, all I ask is that you do what you clearly do best. Kill. Ambition is the bane of mortality. It was through ambition that we gods transcended the thick mud and thin blood of our mundane birthrights. Ambition that drove us to sustain our divine selves through the subjugation of others. Chevron's soul is made up of 1 part ambition and 2 parts raw, unbounded passion. Such a volatile spark shall burn briefly and brightly, in even the most deadened of hearts. I shall put this simply, For in truth, everything comes down to the simple act of planting a seed in the ground. The gods are rising because you slew the one creature that prevented them from doing so. Your name for it is the Beast. It was I who planted the seed in the rich soil beneath Highgate, who nurtured it, who watched it bloom into maturity, even as I succumbed to its mollifying powers. We gods, we were driven into slumbering darkness, to dream away eternity whilst the gentle beast watched over us. I would desire that we return to that blissful state, but my brothers and sisters of deism shall never submit to banishment. They have tasted freedom once more, and they shall not let go of this world until it is pried from their cold, dead hands. The beast was never a cruel master. It didn't want to destroy, to corrupt, to terrorize. It simply existed to exist. I made it that way. Unfortunately, in neglecting to provide it with ambition, I made it vulnerable to the ambitions of others. Queen Atziri and Doriani, Emperor Chittus and Malachi, others even before them. I created a beast that would free humanity from the tyranny of the gods. And all I really did was provide the perfect tool with which humanity could tyrannize itself. Remember, humanity needs us.
Alchemy and black thaumaturgy? You sure know how to lift my spirits.
The name's Tujin. You've quite the aura of darkness. Glad to work with you. That's just the kind of temperament this Ray class demands. We're a proud people, but aren't they? Difference is, we labour against the grim realities of life through the judicious application of bravery and courage. One's lineage carries an ongoing tally of renown and accomplishment. We do this not for ourselves, but for our children, should we one day have him. He's open. Don't give up.
In a gambling mood? We've campaigned together for many years. It's taken a great toll on him, but he soldiers on. I don't know how he remains so cheery, honestly. If he loses another limb, he'll be more metal than man. During the failed rebellion, I once called out with all my heart. An arrow was arcing through the air. My arm was pinned, and I knew I couldn't get out of the way in time. I was a dead woman. But luck answered my earnest request. Another arrow, also on a murderous path, hit the first in midair, and both were diverted, landing on either side of me instead. That was the first time I knew that chance itself was a real force in this world. I didn't say that. You must have misheard. Never heard of gods, but I know I wouldn't put my faith in them, even if they came to my doorstep with an army. I've already solidified my beliefs where they belong. I'm all for the idea of King's March. I just don't like the name. For now, I'll support it from afar. I am honor-bound to discover the fate of Medvid and the druids of the Broken Circle. They believed they could see into the future by peering into the past. Hypothetically, that's a power I'd very much like to have for reasons of chance and profit. But I'm not sure I want it to be true. If Medvid and his nature mystics were right, and time truly is a circle, aren't we all doomed to repeat our lives over and over for eternity? If that is the truth, then there is no luck, no chance, no human will. All life is just a stage play repeating over and over. I don't think I like that notion. His final fate was unknown, but I do know he cast off his peaceful ways and trained with 2 powerful axes after he arrived here. We're not fools. We see that the dead rise here on Rayclast. If Medvid is still out there, he'll be extremely dangerous. Conserve your luck and use it against him if you find him. Go well.
I'm here.
I make my...
She's a distant cousin of mine, so I do what I can to protect her. Got some weird ideas about the world, though. Thinks belief can shape events. If it could, we wouldn't have been defeated during our last campaign. I'm of a particular purpose, see? I'm scratching up the ground in search of an ancient rowdy band. They were called the Black Scythe Mercenaries. Their founder, a particularly heroic warrior by the name of Varana, shares ties to my bloodline. Before I can go home, I need to find out what happened to her. She was a fearsome and irrepressible warrior. King Cadogan III tried to mandate her service to the crown, but she laid flat every man sent to bring her in. Eventually, he realized that she couldn't be controlled, and he gave her a mercenary charter instead, given the freedom to operate the way she wanted. She won many great victories for the Kalgur. I respect those who make their own way. Her fate here on Rayclass was unknown, but I have a feeling she's still kicking about. A burning spirit like that never goes down without a legendary fight. Don't give up.
In a gambling mood.
I'm Rog. I specialise in logistics and planning. I don't know how you've survived out here on your own, but I'll do what I can to support you with my supply skills. From the back, far from combat. He's as loyal a friend as you'll ever find. He would never admit this, but all his scars and injuries are the result of diving in to take a blow for one of us. By all rights, Gwenin should be half mauled, and I should be missing a leg, but Tujen leapt between. I only feel safe enough to do my job because he's around. She'll never lie to you, Exile. Take that as you will. I'm bound by honour to discover the fate of Uhtred and the Order of the Chalice. I'll trade you for any relics that you find with their marks and runes. They were the primary priesthood and religious order that went with the initial ships to Rayclast. They interpreted the stars and the workings of mysterious forces such as alchemy, machinery, and runes. I've always wanted to join the Order. I quite like the idea of spending my days sequestered in a laboratory doing research. Thousands of years ago, the last news coming back to the homeland painted Uhtred in quite the negative light. Some called him a traitor, but the details were sparse and confused. I'm here to clear his name or condemn him. The truth stands above all. Don't drink the water.
Need something? He's a sweetheart. Have you seen the figurines he carves? The four of us use them to play this delightfully strange game he came up with. I love it because there are so many dice rolls and, well, you know me. Good luck.
Aye. Many a campaign would have failed if not for his logistical skills. We've trekked through mud, rain, snow and sand, and yet eaten heartily throughout. It's the true basis of war, mind you, logistics. I think we don't know that. Keep fighting.
Glad to see you. Don't drink the water.
You're naught but skin and bones, Exile. But you've made it this far. Clearly you must have some talent. Care to lend your skills to a matter of honor? The most powerful artifact in our known tales was brought to this continent by the first expedition thousands of years ago. The songs tell of it incinerating evil, purifying tainted fields, and warding off those of ill intent. We could certainly use a relic like that now, in these troubled times. But to find it, we'll have to retrace the steps of those long-ago souls. Only they can tell us the Triskelion Flame's unknown fate. We are of the Kalgur. Ours is an existence spent scrabbling in the muck and mire of mortal life in search of scraps of renown. Some find it on the battlefield. Some find it in service. Others volunteer to sail to the edge of the known world on an impossible quest. The choices we make determine what we are, and what we become echoes into legend. The runes on our armor essentially capture and shape starlight. Sounds poetic, but don't be fooled. The smiths of the Kalgur turned these runes towards killing work long ago, as soon as they discovered they could compel arrows to find their mark, and blades to bite deeper. The greatest smiths became known as artificers, and produced work of singular genius. There weren't many such relics, but there didn't need to be. I believe that you believe that these colored gems give you power, Exile. I've handled one of them, even tried to activate it the way that local Tarkly described, but it didn't do a damn thing. Call me a skeptic, but to me, it seems like the power was inside you all along. I've never heard of this gods thing before setting foot here, but I know of at least one man who would fancy himself a god. Best we not mention divinity to those back home. My quest is to investigate the Knights of the Sun and acquire their relics. I'm willing to trade other less important relics for theirs. Our expeditions are a private matter of honor. Let's discuss this in your hideout instead. Been an honor.
Maramor of Namakanui, you have transgressed against your god and your fellow man. You have been a willing vessel for the following sins: civil envy, inciting insurrection amongst the bonded workforce, 3 counts of insubordination to officers of the Ebony Legion, mortal wrath, assaulting an officer of the Ebony Legion, 1 count of hericide. God has charged me with your redemption. You are hereby exiled to Reclast, where it is hoped you shall come to repent your sins and make your peace with your beloved father.
Now there's a pair of eyes I could never forget. If the tales are true, those peepers of yours have seen all the wonders of Reclast by now, and a few things they likely wish they hadn't. Oh, and no need for us to speak of Orioth. My ears are brimful with the sorrows these wretched companions of yours have been spilling. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that Lion Ice Watch has seen better days. Our once bubbling township has, alas, become a brooding quagmire of gloom and despair. I blame the unrelenting weather. As you know, I am both a humanitarian and a strong believer in the soul-sustaining power of story. Back when I was still captain of the Merry Gull, many days at sea afforded me time to work on my thespian aspirations. I wrote a theatrical epic, a one-man show entitled Cedric and the Buxom Stranger. I sealed the manuscript inside a roll of oiled leather and stashed it in the hold for safekeeping. Perhaps you could salvage it for me from that tidal island upon which my poor ship came to rest. Who knows? Maybe we can bring some joy back to Lion Eyes Watch with a bit of live entertainment. Now there's a sorry tale, more miserable than any dirge I've ever heard. Nessa's gone. Wandered off into the night, muttering to herself about dancing to his ditty. No, I didn't go after her. In truth, she was gone when I woke up the next morn. I only imagined she'd be muttering, you see, on account of the murmuring she's been making these past few weeks. Always the same, about him and his song, whoever in damnation he is. Lily Roth, granddaughter of the legendary Rottooth Roth. Oh, apologies if I seem a little giddy. It's not any old day you get to meet marine royalty. I mean, you know how I feel about pirates and all, but the Roths have as much in common with those scurvy sea rats as a shark does with a goldfish. Lily has her granddaddy's blood in her veins. It's plain for all to see. Look at the luster in her eyes, the ruddy blush of her skin. That there's a pirate princess, and no mistake. Yes, we live in curious times indeed. A time when old stories are being birthed, muling, and puking into our world of dirt and blood. It's all a bit inspiring, really. Hence, I've written a little something. Ancient anecdotes now wake from their beds, looming in our fears, towering above our heads. Age-old lusts and bygone greeds, walking and reeking as humanity bleeds. Rivers of history, lakes of blood, the gods stand upon us as we cower in the mud. You won't find a sailor that doesn't whisper a quiet prayer to the brine king before casting off. In fact, under the maddening radiance of a full moon, the more superstitious captains would drown some poor slave, failed mutineer, just to keep old Tsoakoth happy. No, that wasn't a sneeze. That's a fish god's old Asmerian name. It's considered foul luck to speak it on board a ship. A keel-hauling offence. You'll not find a more renowned pirate as Whalem Rottooth Roth. In times when Fairgraves was still a whelp earning his sea legs, Rottooth was prowling the Strait of Orioth in his ship, the Black Crest. It's said he built it himself, lining its hull with the bones of some great sea beast he slew with nothing but a harpoon and a bottle of rum. Never was there a more nimble, more ferocious vessel, like that Leviathan spirit still lived and breathed in its timbers. No one sighted Rottooth for 20 years or more, but I know where the Black Crest is. The ship graveyard, no less. Seems that Whalem Roth might have had his last meal with Lady Nervale.
First we hear that Oriath has lost its bloody mind, and then you turn up. Doesn't take a scholar to work out how these two events might be connected. I don't know what's going on out there, and I probably wouldn't understand it if I saw it with my own two eyes. What I do know is this. The world we knew is gone. Now we have to do our damnedest to make sure we don't go with it. Nessa. I saw her one night, running out across the coast, headed in the direction of the mudflats. Called out to her, but she didn't even turn her head. Maybe she couldn't hear me. Maybe she didn't want to. I don't bloody know. I tried to run after her, but she'd vanished into the darkness before my feet had barely touched the sand. So I tracked her, all the way to the mudflats, and that's when her tracks, they just stopped. No sign of meeting someone or something. No sign of a struggle. It's like one moment she was running and the next, gone. Look, I've heard some things about what you've done. Things that beg a belief. Now you can do this. Please. Nessa. Bring her back to us. I wonder how much Lily squeezed out of those refugees from Oriath. Yes, she did risk her life and ship to save them. But I knew the Lily of old, a damn fine smuggler. And that Lily never did a good deed that didn't also turn a profit. I had a life before Lion Eye's watch. Not much of one by some people's standards, but it was good enough for me. Lily and I would smuggle a bit of booze to keep our purses full. We were good at it, too. Made us a fine partnership, her quick mind and my steady nerves, right up until the day she left me drunk and trussed on Penance Key. By the time the blackguards unwrapped their present, she was halfway to Trathus. That's how I ended up here. Yes, it smarts a bit to look at her. But what right have I to say where the flotsam finally washes up? Never took much stock in the stories Lily told. Didn't sit right. Those full moon sacrifices her and her ilk would do out on the open water. But now, in light of everything, I'm obliged to reconsider. If it meant Nessa might be spared the attentions of that wretched Brine King, I'd even be inclined to slit a mutineering throat or two myself. Those shambling nobles out there on the strand, they left Oriath to die a bloody death, rats fleeing a sinking ship. Seems they learned a bit of the hard truth, though. Doesn't matter how much money you have, you can't outrun death when it comes for you. Can't say they've actually noticed, though. They're still the same flesh-eating bastards they've always been. Just a bit more obvious about it now. Stay sharp out there.
Do I hear the clink of markers in your pockets? Claimed from one of your victims? Or perhaps the victim of one of your victims? It is impossible to know how far back that chain could unwind, but now they belong to you. And you seem to be in good health. To the victor, etc. It seems you are the one I have patiently waited for. Yes, you will do just fine. Take a marker in your hand, speak these words into your mind. The ring binds us all, and to all within I shall do no harm. I will see you soon. Do I hear the clink of mark? I'll be here when you need me.
Still composing that poem?
Good tidings to you.